Well, good evening, everyone. So you may have noticed the background is an American flag because July 4th is coming soon when we celebrate our independence. And I would just like to take this time, if you have served in the military, would you stand or raise your hand or something so we can honor you? You're welcome. Thank you. An announcement. Children, you may go to Kids Church. I just want to call it Saturday Fun Day or something. There's a Sunday morning prayer time that meets here. 8:30, I believe, is when the doors open. So if you would like just to sit, relax, pray, listen to worship music, have people pray for you, please come Sunday mornings here. Also, this church, we are trying to become more well-known in our community. So we are looking for ways to serve our community. And a couple of things that are coming up. The Winsted days, this church is going to do the game tent. Now, there isn't a game tent. We're creating a game tent. And we have exciting games like pick a duck from a pond, throw fake darts at a fake dart board, life-size Jenga. Very exciting games. Yeah, there's going to be ring toss on lollipops. So I'm telling you that is coming up the 8th and 9th or the 9th and 10th or whatever that weekend is in August. If you are willing and able and interested in volunteering to run a shift, at this point we don't know how long a shift is. And we don't know how many there will be. Well, it kind of depends on how many people we get, you know. So if you're interested, let me know. Let Diane Newman know. Here's what you get: a River of Life hat and a River of Life shirt. Yeah, well, you have to wear them there, though, because we want people to know. And then we're also, on Thursday nights, there is music at the park, and we are signed up to cook food twice. And I believe we're going to do hot dogs or something simple. But again, it's just another chance to let people know, hey, we're River of Life. We're normal. We don't sacrifice cats, you know. Well, I mean, you know, in a community that is basically Lutheran or Catholic, if you're not Lutheran or Catholic, you're like weird. It's like, yeah, Diane, we're weird. That's right. That's right. They're like, keep your cats away from them. Watch out. So those opportunities are coming up. And then, was there another announcement I was supposed to make? Well, if there was, I don't know what it is. So there is not. That is the end of announcements. And then tonight, I'm starting a new series on the life of Joseph. I love the Old Testament stories. I've told you I love the Old Testament stories. I listen to them. I love them. I listen to them. It's like hanging out with old friends. I've never actually preached on the life of Joseph. And so I thought, let's do that. So for the next few months, we'll be looking at Genesis 37 through 50. We're going to skip 38. I'll explain why when we get there. But tonight, we're going to look at the beginning of the life of Joseph. Starting in Genesis 37, verse 1 says, Jacob, and you say, well, I thought we were talking about Joseph. Yes, we are. Jacob is Joseph's father. Jacob, his name is also Israel. He's the son of Isaac, so there was Abraham, and then there was Isaac, and then there was Jacob and Esau, and Jacob was chosen by God. His name was changed to Israel. He is the father of the nation of Israel. He had 12 sons. His 11th son was a young man named Joseph. Jacob had 2 wives. The first wife, the wife he really wanted to marry was Rachel, and so he worked 7 years. And by the way, young ladies especially, it says this: he worked 7 years so that he could marry Rachel. And it seemed like a day because of his great love for her. And we live in this crazy world where they bought into Elvis. It's now or never, my love won't wait. Well, if it won't wait, it's not love. Jacob worked 7 years, and it seemed like a day. And then his father-in-law played a little trick, what they used to call the switcheroo. Yeah. So here's another young men, lift the veil before the wedding. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. So he actually gets married, and it's Leah, the older sister. And he's like, I worked 7 years so I could marry Rachel. And you gave me Leah. And his father-in-law said, well, it's our culture. We can't let the younger daughter get married before the older daughter. But, be married to Leah for a week and have your little honeymoon. And then we'll let you marry Rachel for another 7 years of work. But he loved Rachel. And so he worked 14 years. And then the sisters, shockingly, there was a little bit of sister rivalry. And Rachel knew that she was loved, and Leah knew she was like kind of the leftover wife. And Leah had all these sons. And Leah kept saying, well, my husband will love me now because I've given him 48 boys. That's an exaggeration. It wasn't that many. And so then Rachel was like, well, I have my maidservant, so why don't you marry her too, Jacob? And then I will have children through her. And so he did. And then Leah's like, two can play that game as well. And so she gave her maidservant. So now Jacob basically has 4 wives. And I know that sounds a little strange. It was a different time, a different age, a different culture. They played the switcheroo. The point of it is, he has 12 sons. Joseph was the firstborn son of Rachel, the wife that he truly loved. So Jacob lived in the land of his fathers. And who were his fathers? Isaac and Abraham. And they wandered in the promised land because God promised the promised land. They never owned the promised land. They just lived in tents. Jacob lived in the land of his fathers, sojourning in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, the 11th son, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. So he's a shepherd. He's 17, strong young man. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. And you say, who are they? Those are the 2 maidservants of Rachel and Leah, wife number 3 and wife number 4, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. So the other brothers weren't doing what they ought to have been doing, and Joseph told his dad. And you may have kind of guessed, in a family with 4 moms and sisters that don't necessarily always get along, there was little bits of cracks of conflict. Now Israel, that is Jacob, Israel loved Joseph more than any of his sons. Now you may say, well, that doesn't seem like that's going to help the family be healthier. It does not. It does not. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons because he was the son of his old age. And what would you do if you had a favorite son? You would obviously not try to pretend that you like all your children equally. He made him a robe of many colors. Like, Joseph, just in case the boys forget who my favorite son is, why don't you just wear this around all the time? But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him. And now you really see, okay, there's a problem in the family. They hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Other translations say they could not say a kind word to him. That's how they felt about their little brother Joseph in his fancy coat. Now Joseph had a dream. Now again, he didn't control this. He may have controlled whether he wore the coat or not. Some people say, well, if your dad gives you a gift, just like put it in the closet. You don't have to wear it all the time. It's hard for me to fault Joseph in any of this. I get it. There are people who say Joseph was a proud, arrogant mocker. I don't know. Your older brothers are doing something they're not supposed to do. You tell your dad. Your dad gives you a coat. It's your coat. Like, how many of you had a coat that you wore? Someone bought it for you, right? Would you say, oh, this coat's too nice, I'm just going to go out in the cold. No coat for me. So it's hard for me to pick on Joseph. But Joseph had a dream. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. Now some say, well, he shouldn't have told them the dream. Maybe not. Maybe but he was 17. And it's not like he has social media. It's not like he can go see a counselor and say, yeah, I had a really weird dream, and I'm just thinking. So he talks to his family. That's what they do. They're shepherds. What's he supposed to be out in the field? I'm just like, I'm not talking to you. Why? Because I have a better coat than you and you don't like me. He tells them his dream. He said to them, hear this dream that I dreamed. And again, people tell you dreams. Hear this dream that I dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. Isn't that a little weird? And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. Now, maybe he shouldn't have told them. But they shouldn't hate him. His brothers said to him, are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us? So they hated him even more. As much as they hated him before when they couldn't even speak peaceably to him, they hate him even more for his dreams and for his words. By the way, there's a lot of lessons in here, and I'm not going to point them all out because I can't, because there's too many. But there's a not so subtle lesson on parenting, on creating a unified family. I'm going to let you guys figure that out on your own, but maybe get even clothes. I don't know. Then he dreamed another dream. And again, he didn't create these dreams. We find out they were given to him by God. God gave him these dreams. So now he has these messages from God. He's 17. He doesn't know anything about anything except his brothers don't like him and he has a really nice coat. He dreamed another dream, and he told it to his brothers and said, behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him. Jacob's like, okay, son, enough. Stop making your brothers angry. They don't like the coat already. He didn't actually say that. I made that part up. But what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you? And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father kept the saying in mind. He's like, Joseph had a dream. Not sure. It reminds me of when Mary, it says that she treasured these words in her heart. So I would say, if God gives you dreams, sometimes you should share it. Other times, you might just want to treasure these things in your heart. Just, can you imagine Mary, the mother of Jesus? She could be a very obnoxious mom if she wanted to. Like, oh, your baby can suck his thumb. Mine's the Messiah. There are things that maybe Joseph was a little kid. His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the saying in mind. Now, his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. Now, I'll read it. And Israel, Jacob, said to Joseph, are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. And he said to him, here I am. It's like, oh, Dad, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? So he said to him, go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me word. This was his job. Like, I want to make sure everything is going all right with them. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. Now, I tried looking this up. A couple things are difficult with Bible maps. First of all, we don't actually know for sure where these cities are. They kind of guess areas. Also, you don't know direct routes because, you have a little scale and you can say, oh, it looks like 60 miles. Well, I don't know. 60 miles if you climb a mountain. I'm not sure. I tried reading about it. They say it's about a day's journey. I'm thinking that's a pretty good day's journey. I mean, maybe when you're 17, you can make that journey a day. But the point is, it isn't like he said, hey, your brothers are in the back 40. Run out there. It's like, this is a task. He's going a long ways. And a man found him wandering in the fields because he's like, hey, here I am in Shechem looking for my brothers. And the man asked him, what are you seeking? I am seeking my brothers, he said. Tell me, please, where are they pasturing their flock? And the man said, they've gone away, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. Well, now, Joseph either goes back home, and he says, Dad, they weren't there. They went to Dothan. Well, obviously, he says, my job was to get a report, find out how my brothers are doing. They saw him, so Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. And some people say, see, he shouldn't have done that. He went after his brothers. I'm like, what? That's his job. I mean, I don't know why people just want to find fault with Bible characters. Like, he was just an arrogant, obnoxious kid in a big coat who wants to be a tattletale on his brothers. Or he's wearing a coat that his dad gave him. He tells them a dream that God gave him, and he's doing what his dad asked him to do. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from afar. And before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. Now, a lot of you have had little brothers, and maybe they were obnoxious, and maybe they were spoiled, and maybe they were favored. Most of you probably never said, I want to kill him. I mean, this is hate. This is hate. They hate him. They hate him. They want him dead. They said to one another, here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. And then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what becomes of his dreams. That's a lot of hate. They're making plans. We're going to kill him. We got a cover story. We're going to lie about it. We're going to make sure those dreams don't come true. He will not rule over us. But when Reuben, he's the oldest of the sons, but when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, let us not take his life. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him. And Reuben's plan was that he might rescue him out of their hands to restore him to his father. Because first of all, he's got a conscience. And second, maybe he's thinking, hey, Dad might like me more if I save Joseph's life. I mean, I'm making that up. I don't know. But Reuben's like, let's not kill him. Are you kidding? So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat. Now we learn later in chapters 42 and 43 that Joseph is basically begging for his life, that he's pleading, that he's crying out. He's in a pit screaming for help, and they're like, man, that was fun. You got any snacks? I mean, no, but it's just, one of the things that is remarkable about this story is how different people value human beings. And these brothers don't value Joseph at all. They want him dead. They sat down to eat, and looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites. Now, Ishmael was Abraham's firstborn son, through Hagar, because he had a couple of wives too. 3 in total. Ishmaelites, the third one was after the other 2 were gone. So just letting you know. It's like, I'm just going to tell a Stan Deere story. I don't even have permission, but Stan has been married twice, and both of his wives have passed away. And actually, the third is the 1-year anniversary on the death of his most recent wife, Sharon. So this is a tough weekend for Stan. But we were having a men's Bible study, and Stan was talking about the city of New Orleans, and he said, both of my wives said it was an evil place. And then I said, now explain, not at the same time. So Abraham had 3 wives, not all at the same time. Anyway, they sat down, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels bearing gum, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry it down to Egypt. So the Ishmaelites are heading to Egypt. Then Judah, he's the 4th oldest brother, and he actually seems to be the one that the others look up to and respect. Then Judah said to his brothers, you'll see this later in the story too. Then Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers listened to him. It's like, he is our brother. Maybe killing him is extreme. How about we just sell him as a slave? Oh, much better plan. Then Midianite traders, these were the Ishmaelites. The Midianites and Ishmaelites, it seems they're the same people. The Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And I'm guessing Joseph is pleading during this. He's like, come on, you're my brothers. And the Ishmaelites don't care. And the Ishmaelites care 20 shekels of silver is worth. That's what he's worth to them. They took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben, so he wasn't with the brothers at this time, when Reuben returned to the pit, because it's like second part of my plan, get Joseph out, take him back to dad. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes and returned to his brothers and said, the boy is gone, and where shall I go? Like, you know who's going to be held responsible. I'm the oldest. What are you guys doing? Then they took Joseph's robe, because now Reuben's like, I've got to, as the British say, in for a penny, in for a pound. I've got to go along with the story. I can't go home and tell Dad, yeah, Dad, I secretly said that we should throw him in the pit, but I was planning on coming to get him back. I don't think Jacob say, oh, well, your intentions were good, Reuben. So don't worry that my son is gone. Then they took Joseph's robe, and they slaughtered a goat, and they dipped the robe in the blood. And they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, this we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not. And he identified it and said, it is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins. And by the way, apparently that's not comfortable. I'm just telling you, it's a sign of mourning. And mourned for his son many days. And I wonder how many times the brothers had little side conversations like, man, he's taking this hard. Should we tell him? Are you crazy? Tell him? What are you going to go to Egypt and find him? So they had to just keep this secret. For 22 years, and I know, I just gave away the end, but maybe you've heard the story before. For 22 years, the brothers lived with this lie. For 22 years. And it haunted them. You'll see that later in the story too. The dad, he just will not stop grieving. All his sons and all his daughters. Now, in the book of Genesis, we are told he has one daughter named Dinah. So either as they're writing this, they just kind of throw sons and daughters together, or he had other daughters that just weren't mentioned. They didn't make the list. Dinah plays a fairly important role in the story because of the city of Shechem, and that was before, and you'll have to go home and read it. So I'm not going to tell you about it. And Cosette, I forbid you to tell them either. You guys have to read the Bible yourselves. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "No, I won't be comforted. I won't get over this. I shall go down to Sheol. I will go to the place of the dead to my son mourning. No matter how long I live, I won't get over this." Thus his father wept for him. So you see, the Ishmaelites figured, we 20 shekels of silver. The brothers, we hate him, we want him dead, let's sell him as a slave. His father won't get over him. He won't stop grieving. He won't move on. And that tells you something about the love of a father, at least what the love of a father ought to be. And you kind of wonder, if he had loved all of his sons like that, how different would the story be? If he had just... And then maybe you're comforted thinking, that might be how my Father in heaven feels about me. He loves me with a love so high and wide and long and deep that he's thinking about me. He remembers me. He watches over me. He loves me. And I want to tell you, your Father in heaven loves you. I mean, Jesus said, consider the birds of the air. If that's how God takes care of them, how will he not also, you of little faith? All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "No, I shall go down to Sheol to my son mourning." And thus his father wept for him. Meanwhile, so the father is weeping and refusing to get over, and the brothers know what they did, and they have a secret, and they don't know what to do except keep it. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold him in Egypt, and he ended up going to a man named Potiphar, who's an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. And one of the other things that is so beautiful about this story is all the way through, God is working, and he's moving, and he's causing, and he's creating, and he's protecting. And humans, we do what we do, and we mess things up. We make bad choices. We have jealousy. We have bitterness. We have hatred. We have favoritism. And God is just... One of my other favorite parts of the story is that God did talk to Jacob. He talked to him earlier. He talked to him later. Jacob would have dreams from God. 22 years. You know what God never did? He never ratted the boys out. He could have said, "Hey, Jacob, don't worry. Joseph is alive and you'll see him again." God never ratted them out because he even protected them. He is good. Let's pray. God, I just want to say thank you for this story and how you worked. How men meant this for evil, but you meant it for good. You made something wonderful out of it. You gave the dream, and then you brought it to fruition. So help us to trust you, the same God, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And help us to love you. Help us to love you in some way like you love us. In your name, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, we pray, amen.